Hi, how's it going? So as you can, there has been a lot of speculations about GTA 6, and the most important is whether you will have to whack one of the protagonists. Well, to find out, let's check out some history, shall we? See, the first GTA game was released in 1997, and it was a top-down action-adventure game. The protagonist was a nameless criminal who worked for various gangs and crime bosses in 3 fictional cities. There was only one ending in this game, where the protagonist met Brother Marcus, a leader of a religious cult, and got congratulated for his work. This was one of the few GTA endings where the protagonist survived and did not get betrayed by anyone. The second GTA game was released in 1999, and it was also a top-down action-adventure game. The protagonist was Claude Speed, a mercenary who worked for 3 rival gangs in a futuristic city. There were 3 endings in this game, depending on which gang the protagonist allied with. In all endings, the protagonist got killed by either the Zaibatsu, the Yakuza, or the Russian Mafia. This was the first GTA game where the protagonist died in every ending. The third GTA game was released in 2001, and it was the first 3D GTA game. The protagonist was Claude the Silent Maniac, a criminal who worked for various gangs and crime bosses in Liberty City. There was only one ending in this game, where the protagonist killed Catalina, his former lover and partner in crime, who betrayed him and tried to kill him several times. This was the first GTA game where the protagonist killed the main antagonist in the end, and also survived. The fourth GTA game was released in 2002, and it was set in Vice City, a fictional version of Miami. The protagonist was Tommy Vercetti, a former member of the Forelli crime family who became the kingpin of Vice City. There was only one ending in this game, where the protagonist killed Sonny Forelli, his former boss and friend, who betrayed him and tried to take over his empire. This was the second GTA game, where the protagonist killed the main antagonist in the end, and also survived. The fifth GTA game was released in 2004, and it was set in San Andreas, a fictional version of California and Nevada. The protagonist was Carl Johnson, a former member of the Grove Street families who returned to his hometown after his mother's death. There was only one ending in this game, where the protagonist killed Frank Tenpenny, a corrupt cop who framed him and harassed him throughout the game. This was the third GTA game where the protagonist killed the main antagonist in the end, and also survived. This was also the first GTA game where the protagonist had a family and friends who supported him and helped him in the end. The sixth GTA game was released in 2008, and it was set in Liberty City again, but with a more realistic and darker tone. The protagonist was Niko Bellic, a war veteran from Eastern Europe who came to America in search of a better life. There were 2 endings in this game, depending on the player's choice. In both endings, the protagonist lost someone he loved, either his cousin Roman or his girlfriend Kate. This was the first GTA game where the protagonist's fate was determined by the player's choice, and also the first GTA game where the protagonist had a tragic and emotional ending. The 7th GTA game was released in 2013, and it was set in Los Santos, a fictional version of Los Angeles. The protagonist was actually 3 protagonists: Michael DeSanta, a retired bank robber who faked his death; Franklin Clinton, a young street hustler who wanted to make it big; and Trevor Phillips, a psychotic drug lord and Michael's former partner. There were 3 endings in this game, depending on the player's choice. In one ending, the protagonist killed Trevor. In another ending, the protagonist killed Michael. And in the third ending, the protagonist spared both of them and killed their enemies. This was the first GTA game where the protagonist was more than one character, and also the first GTA game where the protagonist could die or survive based on the player's choice. If we look at the pattern of the GTA endings, we can see that the protagonist dies in 4 out of 7 games, or 57% of the time. This means that there is a high chance that the GTA 6 protagonist will die in the end, unless the player has a choice to save him or her. We can also see that the protagonist kills the main antagonist in 4 out of 7 games, or 57% of the time. This means that there is a high chance that the GTA 6 protagonist will kill the main antagonist in the end, unless the antagonist is someone close to him or her. We can also see that the protagonist has a happy ending in 3 out of 7 games, or 43% of the time. This means that there is a low chance that the GTA 6 protagonist will have a happy ending, unless the game has a more optimistic tone. Now that's just some random maths, alright. Now let's talk something else. Now let's compare the GTA endings with the RDR endings. RDR 1 was released in 2010, and it was set in 1911. The protagonist was John Marston, a former outlaw who was forced by the government to hunt down his former gang members. There was only one ending in this game, where the protagonist was killed by the government agents who betrayed him. This was a very sad and tragic ending, where the protagonist died as a hero, but also as a victim. RDR2 was released in 2018, and it was set in 1899. The protagonist was Arthur Morgan, a loyal member of the Van der Linde gang, who was diagnosed with tuberculosis. There were two endings in this game, depending on the player's choice and honor. In one ending, the protagonist died peacefully, watching the sunrise. In another ending, the protagonist died violently, stabbed by his former friend. This was also a very sad and tragic ending, where the protagonist died as a legend, but also as a martyr. If we look at the pattern of the RDR endings, we can see that the protagonist dies in both games, or 100% of the time. So, what can we conclude from this analysis? Well, we can conclude that the GTA endings are more varied and unpredictable than the RDR endings. Now, let's talk about the potential GTA 6 story, and how it could revolve around Jason being a cop and undercover with Lucia to betray her. This is a very interesting theory that some fans have speculated based on the clues in the trailer. If this is true, then GTA 6 could have a very dramatic and shocking ending, similar to the real-life fate of Bonnie and Clyde. As you may know, Bonnie and Clyde were a notorious couple of outlaws who robbed banks and killed people during the Great Depression. They were eventually betrayed by a friend, and police officers from Texas and Louisiana ambushed the couple along a highway between the towns of Gibbsland and Sales in Bienville Parish, Louisiana, on May 23, 1934. After they attempted to flee the roadblock, police opened fire, killing them. Their bodies were riddled with bullets, and their car was a wreck. It was a brutal and violent end for the infamous duo. Now, imagine if GTA 6 had a similar ending, but with a twist. What if Jason was actually a cop or an undercover agent who infiltrated Lucia's gang and pretended to be her lover? What if he was working for the same government agency that arrested Lucia in the beginning of the game? What if he was the one who set up the trap for Lucia and her gang, and betrayed her in the end? This would be a shocking and heartbreaking revelation for Lucia, who trusted Jason and loved him. She would feel betrayed, angry, and hurt. She would also realize that her whole life of crime was a lie, and that she was used by Jason and the government. She would have no choice but to fight back or surrender, knowing that she had no future. Remember, this is just speculation. Depending on the player's choice, the ending could have different outcomes. Maybe Lucia would try to escape with Jason, hoping to convince him to change his mind and run away with her. Maybe Jason would try to arrest Lucia, hoping to spare her life and redeem himself. Maybe Lucia would kill Jason, hoping to avenge herself and her gang. Maybe Jason would kill Lucia, hoping to end her misery and his guilt. Maybe both of them would die in a hail of bullets, hoping to be together in death. But I'm gonna make a prediction here. GTA 6 will focus a lot on story too. So, now let's talk about how Rockstar will focus more on the story this time. Of course, it won't be on the same level as RDR2, which had one of the most immersive and emotional stories in gaming history. But it will still be good and engaging. We might even get an epilogue after the protagonist's death, similar to how we got to play as John Marston's son Jack in RDR1, or as John himself in RDR2. This leads us to the game leaks that tease two other important characters, Bill and Kai. According to the leaks, Bill is a former military officer who works as a private security contractor, and Kai is a hacker and activist who opposes the government and the corporations. They are both involved in the main plot of GTA 6, and they have their own missions and side activities. Bill and Kai could be the epilogue protagonists, meaning that we could play as them after Lucia and Jason's story is over. This would be an interesting twist, as we could see the aftermath of the main events, and how they affect the world and the characters. Maybe Bill and Kai would team up to expose the truth behind the government's corruption. Or maybe they would have their own agendas and conflicts. Maybe they would have a connection to Lucia and Jason. Or maybe they would be completely independent. But let me tell you one more thing, that this is unlikely, as Rockstar has never done this before in a GTA game. In GTA 5, we could switch between the three protagonists at any time, and in GTA 4, we could play as two different characters in the DLC episodes. But we never got to play as a new character after the main story was over. So, it's more likely that Bill and Kai will be minor playable characters. They would still have an important role in the story, but they would not be the main focus. Of course, you never know what Rockstar will do, as they are known for surprising and innovating the gaming industry. Maybe they will break their own conventions and give us a completely different experience. That's all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something new. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Remember, I make a lot of videos like this, so please make sure to subscribe to the channel. I'll see you next time. Take care.